For Renault in 2018, they matched their expectation of claiming fourth in the World Constructors' Championship, with a collection of just brilliant performances by both team and drivers. And in my opinion, in 2018, Renault were very similar to Mercedes. They didn't have the car performance, in my opinion, to reach where they got to, but they were clinical and just proved that edge in their 2018 campaign, with at times that car being the 6th or 7th fastest car, but still they were able to get P4 in the championship. A very good season for Renault. But that's the main thing the Enstone team need to improve on for 2019, and that is to develop their chassis. At too many times in the second half of that season, Renault were very, very vulnerable, and at times were being knocked out in qualifying one. Not good enough for a team who finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship. In my opinion, the team's best race was the US Grand Prix due to the circumstances that surrounded that race. Haas could have put a big statement to claiming fourth in the Constructors' Championship, but Renault delivered a fine performance in the race, claiming a comfortable 6th and 7th, a hammer blow to the Haas F1 team. In my opinion, the team's worst race of the season was the Belgian Grand Prix, where Hulkenberg caused a horror crash on lap 1, and Carlos Sainz absolutely had no pace in the race. And although this wasn't a massive surprise, Renault did deliver a good points haul in 2017, so it was proven that Renault were on the back foot in the second half of 2018. Now let's move on to the drivers, and first off let's start with Carlos Sainz, the Spaniard who endured his first full season with the Enstone team. And although he didn't exceed expectations for his season, Carlos Sainz still had a very, very good season, claiming various and a number of points finishes more than his teammates, and delivered some fine performances like at Baku, Catalonia, and for the majority of the race there, Mexico, when he outperformed his teammates. So Sainz did show some glimpses of what he can do in a Formula 1 car. But too many times in the season, Hulkenberg had Sainz in his back pocket, and I know Sainz hasn't been at Renault for as long as Hulkenberg, but it's about 8 months. So I think Hulkenberg was better than Sainz in 2018, but I tell you one thing for a fact, Carlos Sainz was still very, very solid, and in my opinion deserves a shout out for the top 5 drivers of 2018. In my opinion, Carlos Sainz's best race of the season was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, where he kept his head down and claimed P5 at a track where Renault should never have been that successful at. His worst race of 2018 for me was the German Grand Prix, where he was thoroughly outperformed by teammate Nico Hulkenberg and would have finished in the points like in P9 or P10, but he made a very stupid error under the safety car, overtaking in that scenario, costing him about 2 points. A very embarrassing incident. But for Carlos Sainz, he has a big challenge, and that is to rebuild McLaren for 2019 onwards. And this is a team that is heavily in crisis, so it's a big job for Carlos Sainz, but I think he can prove why he is still a very good driver. Nico Hulkenberg finished best of the race in the World Drivers' Championship, finishing P7. And that came after an array of astonishing drives, with the German outperforming that Renault chassis to a place where Renault were definitely not the 4th fastest car at all this season, but Hulkenberg still finished best of the rest. What a season for the German. Especially in the first 11 races, Hulkenberg produced some absolutely amazing performances, like at the British, German, Australian Grand Prix. That is not to mention some of the other races like at China. Hulkenberg had Sainz in his back pocket in the first 11 races, but in the last 10 races, Hulkenberg drifted off a bit and just did not deliver that good of pace. But I will say that Nico does deserve to be in the top 5 drivers of 2018 due to extracting the best out of that Renault chassis. One thing I have noticed about Hulkenberg is that he is still very inconsistent. He grabbed most of his points because of good points finishes, like in 7th, 6th or 5th, but at other races he's like 12th or 13th or making silly errors. And that's where he needs to improve for 2019, his consistency. Hulk's best race of the season for me was the British Grand Prix, because as we all know, Renault did not make it to Q3, but Hulkenberg still managed to claimed P6 after a great start and hanging on to those super hard tyres, literally the super hard tyres, the Pirelli compound, at the end of the race after the safety car. What a drive. He fended off the Haas and the Force India cars, which in my opinion were the quicker cars during the British Grand Prix weekend, and for me that is the most underrated drive of 2018. But his worst race of the season was the Belgian Grand Prix, where after engine penalties he started way back. But after outbraking himself into turn 1 of the first lap, he caused a massive shunt, including Charles Leclerc and Fernando Alonso. But still, in my opinion, I think this was Nico Hulkenberg's best season in F1, defeating his 2007 and 2013 campaign. But guys, that is it for today's video. Please like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And until next time guys, see you later.